Here I have few panettones that I've made for this tutorial. For a Christmas or New Year's dinner, these 1 kilo or 750 gram ones are perfect to decorate the table. For sales, smaller quantities like the half kilo or 60 gram ones are usually better. Panettone requires special care and top quality ingredients, so it can never be priced cheaply. Let's cut this one. First, the aroma is amazing. This is achieved with citrus, vanilla, honey, and liquor. As for the texture of the dough, it's quite good for having been made with active dry yeast. Remember that panettone is traditionally made with sourdough. A good sourdough starter takes a minimum of 14 days to prepare. The sourdough gives it that special texture, soft and moist, and despite the fat content, it pulls apart in strands like cotton. That's why panettone is traditionally torn apart by hand in pieces. Another important point is the type of flour used. Ideally, you should use bread flour combined with double zero flour, which is used for making pasta and pizza dough. Also, panettone can't be rushed. The dough needs time to mature to achieve the right texture and flavor. A good panettone is not overly sweet. Rather, the flavors are intense yet subtle at the same time. You should even get a slight bitterness, which is what makes panettone unique. The true purpose of this tutorial is to introduce all of you to the world of panettone. For this recipe we'll need 3 days. While it seems like a long time, you'll see that it's not. I'll show you how to organize the process so it flows smoothly without feeling like hard work. Hi, I'm Carlos Salgado, and today we are going to make this Italian classic famous all over the world, the panettone. It's 8 p.m. and we are going to start by making the pre-ferment. Normally, panettone is made without yeast, relying solely on sourdough, but for this simple homemade recipe, we'll be using dry yeast, which is much easier to find in stores. We'll also prepare the flavorings for the panettone and get some ingredients ready for the next day. For the polish, we'll need 6 grams of dry yeast, 50 grams of lukewarm water, 80 grams of bread flour. First, dissolve the yeast well in the water. Then add the flour and mix using a spoon. Once combined, knead it well until you form a small ball. Place it in a bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Leave it to firm for 12 to 18 hours. It should be kept at temperature between 22 and 24 degrees or 72-75 Fahrenheit. And leave it in the oven as the temperature tends to concentrate a bit more there. If your house is a little cold, you can turn on the oven for just a minute or two to warm it up slightly. Now let's prepare the panettone's aroma. For that we'll need the zest of 1 orange, the zest of 1 lemon, 20 grams of acacia honey. This honey is ideal because it has a mild flavor, often called children's honey. If you can find it, use whatever honey you have available. The seeds of 1 vanilla pod or 1 tablespoon of extract as a substitute, 1 tablespoon of rum. Place all these ingredients in a small container with a lid or cover it with plastic wrap. We'll also soak 100 grams of golden raisins in water. Dice 40 grams of candied orange and 40 grams of candied lemon. If you don't have these candied peels, just add 50 more grams of golden raisins. However, these candied peels give the panettone that special touch. Lastly, we'll leave 4 eggs and 200 grams of butter out of the fridge so they are at room temperature for the next day. It's 11 a.m. Here's our polish. Weigh out 100 grams and place it in the bowl of a mixer. We'll now proceed with the first dough or impasto. For this we'll need 100 grams of pre-ferment, which we already placed in the mixer bowl, 180 grams of lukewarm water, 160 grams of bread flour, 100 grams of double zero flour, 100 grams of sugar, 2 egg yolks, 100 grams of softened butter. First, combine the 2 flours. Add the water to the mixer bowl with the pre-ferment, and then add 1/3 of the flour mixture. Using the dough hook, begin kneading at low speed. With the help of a scraper, make sure the flour is being incorporated into the dough. Add the second portion of the flour. Then the rest of it. Increase the speed slightly. Once we have a smooth dough, add the sugar in 2 parts. Once the sugar is incorporated, add 1 egg yolk. Continue kneading. Now add the second egg yolk. Increase the speed. Now we'll start adding the butter in small portions. Wait for each portion to be incorporated before adding the next one. Once all the butter has been added, knead at medium speed until the dough pulls away from the sides of the bowl. This will take about 5 to 7 minutes. Once the dough is smooth, place it in a container and cover it with plastic wrap. Let it rise for 4 to 8 hours or until it triples in size. I usually let it rise in the oven again. And in about 4 hours, it's ready for the second impasto. While we wait, let's drain the raisins. Here are the ingredients we'll need for the second impasto. 50 grams of bread flour, 30 grams of double zero flour, 2 egg yolks, 50 grams of sugar, 1 tablespoon of salt, 25 grams of softened butter, the raisins and candied citrus, the aroma. Now that the dough has tripled in size, we will move on to the second impasto. First, combine the flours. Place the dough in the mixer bowl. Add the aroma mixture and half of the flour. Knead at low speed. Once the flour is incorporated, add the rest. Now add the sugar and salt. Continue kneading at low speed. Add 1 egg yolk, followed by the second yolk. Knead at medium speed. Now, gradually add the butter. Knead at medium speed until the dough pulls away from the sides of the ball and has a smooth, shiny appearance. Once you have achieved this texture, add the raisins and candied citrus. Incorporate everything well. Place the dough in a bowl and cover it with plastic wrap. Leave the dough to proof in the fridge for 12 to 18 hours. This will allow the dough to develop unique flavors and aromas. Reserve a bit of softened butter for the next day. It's 11 a.m. on the third day. We have our 1 kilo panettone mold ready. You can also divide the dough and make 2 half-kilo panettones. Butter your work surface lightly. The dough will have risen slowly and mature in the cold, and it will be easier to handle. Butter your hands a bit and shape the dough into a perfect ball. Once you form it, press the base to ensure the dough sticks well to the bottom of the mold. After placing the dough in the mold, cover it with plastic wrap and let it rise one last time for about 8 hours. It's 6 p.m. Let's check on the panettone. Hasn't dried enough yet, but we will remove the plastic wrap to allow a dry layer to form on the surface. The panettone will be ready for baking once it's about 1.5 centimeters or half an inch from the edge. If we let it rise too much, it may overflow during the first few minutes of baking. Preheat the oven to 100 degrees or 350 Fahrenheit. Let's prepare the glaze that will give the panettone its crunchy top. Mix 20 grams of room temperature egg whites with 46 grams of powdered sugar. Then add 20 grams of cornstarch and finally 20 grams of almond flour. Place the glaze in a piping bag. You don't need a piping tip, just cut the tip of the bag slightly. Now it's time to bake the panettone. Pipe a spiral of the glaze on top of the panettone. Let it settle, then sprinkle some pearl sugar on top. Place the panettone in the lower part of the oven without the fan on. Bake it for 15 minutes to 1 hour. Prepare a large pot and have some knitting needles or sticks ready. Our panettone will soon be ready. The idea is to insert the needles or sticks through the panettone so that the strands of dough don't collapse and the dome stays intact. Once it's done baking, remove the panettone from the oven and pierce it crosswise with the needles. Turn it upside down and let it cool until the next day. The panettone should rest for at least a day before cutting into it. This ensures that the flavors and textures are perfect for tasting. Of the 3 days needed to make it, the second day is the most labor intensive. However, you can adjust the schedule to suit your needs. These are just the timings that I find flow best for production. If you'd like to make a chocolate version of this recipe, simply replace the candied citrus with 150 grams of chopped dark chocolate. I prefer to chop it rather than use chocolate chips as it gives a more rustic touch. For the topping, we will use 60 grams of melted dark chocolate, to which we'll add 10 grams of softened butter. Emulsify well, and once creamy, cover the top of the panettone. Next, sprinkle with chocolate flakes or chocolate sprinkles. Let it set for an hour. If you like to make 750 grams of half kilo versions, the baking times will be shorter. For 750 grams, bake for 40 minutes, and for the half kilo ones, 25 to 30 minutes. Remember, if you are baking several panettones at once, the baking time will be a little longer. If you are baking multiple 1 kilo panettones, I recommend increasing the oven temperature to 190 degrees or 375 Fahrenheit. For the smaller ones, 15 minutes in the oven should be enough. I hope you feel encouraged to try this recipe at home. Remember that this is more a homemade version of the classic panettone. Also, the result is of very good quality. And with that, we conclude another pastry lesson. Thanks for joining me and see you soon.